if I'm DSG, I'm not playing for bot lane. Their bot lane has been having a bad time. I don't care who my top laner is. I know who my bot lane is, and I'm going top side.
That's crazy.
Dude,
You're queuing with the boys. You're like, yeah, I queue with you, which means I know how you play.
I like that.
Which means I'm going to the random in top lane.
and because I respect you guys, I know that our best chance of winning is me not going anywhere near
going
you.
to top lane with this person we didn't queue with, who I don't know anything about.
Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia Season 10, episode number 14. We've got some roster changes within a split. This is very rare occurrence. And it's
super rare.
It's right before the lock for the rosters. There's a reason why it's super rare, too. It's because it's hard to find replacement players when you're within a split, within a season. But they have the announcement. It is official. Srtty is going to Disguise, Castle is going to Lyon, and Dhokla is staying with Lyon. They've said that they are competing for the spot. You know, what all the inner workings of that actually entail are always up, individual up to the, actual situation. But it does seem kind of crazy too, since there's even been interviews. I think it was Sheep with Sheep. Was that the one with
Rigby?
With Rigby, where Rigby was basically like, yeah,
It was with Nayman or Nayman.
Okay, it was with Nayman. And Rigby was basically like, yeah, it wasn't my idea, the owner's idea, and he thought, they're similar. They have different strengths, but like similar power levels, basically.
I have the exact quote. So the headline quote was, "From my point of view, I was low-key opposed to changing Dhokla because Dhokla and Castle have different weaknesses and strengths. I didn't think the gap between those two was really big." He said, he was talking about, Dhokla wasn't really as confident, so he's less decisive, but it was mostly about his laning phase, and they thought they could fix that. But yeah, it is interesting, just that he came out and specifically said that it wasn't his decision. He says, they're asking me for thoughts, but it's not my decision because I'm just a coach, and he said, what if we did Castle for Dhokla? And I said, there's no merit to that. So it is pretty interesting, and that's like his initial thoughts, and who knows. Rigby is a coach who has come out and kind of put blame on players in the past and stuff, so I don't know where his thoughts are with this, because it does feel like a little bit of a risky move. I'm not gonna lie, to be like, nope, I didn't agree, it's the owner's fault, because those are the people that are kind of signing the checks at the end of the day. But I respect it if that's how he feels.
Yeah, I mean, the transparency is it's kind of refreshing. I definitely don't think it was in his best interest to do that. I don't really see why he would have said that. But as part of the audience, it's kind of nice to see that side of things, because I think that happens often, honestly, and it's super weird. That's one of the things that, with being a player nowadays, and even I guess coaches, you don't have the final say in who's on the team, which always makes it a little weird when you're a player. It's like, hey, I can't decide who I play with, and even if I really like my teammate, they might disappear, or I might get stuck with someone that I really do not synergize at all with. So it can be a little bit tough.
I feel like it also, in a way, helps Dhokla that the coaching staff says this, like, it didn't come from us. There's not merit to it. Even saying there's not merit to it, and if it coming down from an ownership decision, it puts less negativity on Dhokla, because then people are like, oh, okay. It's not even like stuff that we don't have access to, like scrims or something. We're also super bad, or some other reason like that the coaching staff might have done the change. And Dhokla, he's had some quite bad games, especially he was talking about on pros, some of his EWC qualifier ones were super stinkers. But he has a lot of fans. He's very popular, and it's a very big shakeup, a very big change for multiple teams, because we're involving, multiple teams in the trade and in the replacement. Also, possibly not being permanent. I know Srtty went on his stream and he was, talking about as well. There's, it might not be permanent. There might be an LCK CL top laner coming in and he's, could just be filling the spot. Either way, I feel like Srtty's time here now is another of these like windows where it's like, okay, I gotta look as good as possible, while I'm in there playing. And top lane, there was a comment about, lane swaps are gone and people are legit playing pro top Vayne right now. It's actually could be Srtty's time to shine because that's when, he got all his, notoriety for playing in solo queue, ranged top laners and, Vayne specifically as well too. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy stuff all over with, Castle moving. And if the coaches on Lyon also weren't really for this, then you have to think
initially, who knows?
You have to think also not all the players maybe are on board. Like how is this going to change team dynamics? It's kind of crazy stuff that's going down.
I mean, I feel like, so we don't know what Reignover thought, right? We don't, maybe Reignover wanted this, or maybe some of the players wanted this. Like, we don't really know. And it's also, like you said, Dhokla's a popular player. It's hard to come out as a teammate and be like, yeah, I thought he was ass, so I told Reignover, you know what I mean? It's, you know that is not going to be received well, even if that's really how it went down. So I think a lot of people probably wouldn't come out and say that if that was the case. I would be pretty surprised if the owner just came in and is like, yep, don't care what the players say, don't care what the coaches say, I know best, I'm just going to swap this, without anyone thinking it was something they should be doing. So like I that just seems insane to me. So like I have to believe that there was something else to there. If you want to check out that interview that I mentioned, it's Arsh did it, Arsh Goyal, and it's on lcsprofiles.com. It's from the NAMN, so that's kind of a cool interview. But there was also, Dhokla was just on Pros, and they got to delay the release of Pros so that the news could be announced, and so they could talk about that on Pros, talk about this roster swap, which I thought was also really cool. And Dhokla addresses it there. He talks about it. Fudge talks about his experience being swapped out, because that is part of being a pro, is that you can get replaced, and you're not necessarily going to agree with it. It could happen at any time. You could lose your job. Even if you win a split, you could be gone next split. You don't really know what's going to happen. But Dhokla seemed, pretty. He said he was pretty surprised by it and not really sure exactly what was going to be happening, was kind of my impression based on how he was talking about it. He was saying, he had a good chat with Reignover, talking about how, some of his issues and stuff. And like in that chat, I believe he was told by Reignover that this was going to be happening. So it was kind of a surprise to him. He found out, just midweek or whatever. And, he was saying that he wasn't really sure, is it going to be like, they're going to be splitting scrims, he said, but it was unclear if it was going to be like a 6-man roster situation, or that one of them can earn it and then it's only going to be 5-man, or like, it seems unclear exactly what is going to be used. So people don't really know yet. Some people were like, oh, maybe it's going to be like a Secret Whales thing, and you bring out Dhokla for counter picks, or you do this, or maybe the 6-man thing is just a cover. And usually what it is, the 6-man is just someone's being replaced, and they're just not saying that, right? They're letting the contract end till the end of the year, and then they're dropping them. So, I mean, it's definitely a tough spot for Dhokla, but yeah, it feels bad because on one hand, you can be like, Dhokla's laning has been bad. I think that's just true in the LCS. Like, he has not been doing very well in his laning this year. But he's also like just won the split. He's been like an international riser the last, couple of years. Like, he's been showing up in these big competitions. He's been showing up in finals and big moments and doing really well. So you would think that would buy you some leeway, especially when they just won lock-in. But Castle, on the other hand, has been on a team that has obviously been really bad the whole time he's been in the LCS. And his laning, I think, is some of the best 1v1 laning in the league. 1v1, he was doing really well against Morgan last week, against TL. Obviously, the team is losing, but he's really impressive in that phase. The question is, to me, with Castle, it's like he's obviously earned his opportunity on a team, but how will he be as far as incorporating into the team? Is he going to be able to team fight well? Because mostly his individual leads don't really mean anything on Disguised, but that's not necessarily just your fault if you can't convert, if the rest of your team is also doing bad. But it also doesn't guarantee that you can team fight really, really well if you're subbed into a new team. So I just feel like there's so many questions, and it feels like a risky move for Lyon.
It does. I mean, I feel for Dhokla because it seems like every split there's something, like he gets to World with 100 Thieves after having no offer coming in as a coach, and then, subbing in for a totally dysfunctional team and then completely turning it around. Coming into this year, no offers, and then join Lyon because of a visa issue, and then they go and win. So I don't know. Somehow he keeps just getting the short end of the stick every single time.
To be fair, he did get a couple offers, but they were bottom teams.
Yeah, I guess no good offers.
Yeah.
Is a better way to put it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that sucks. It feels like he's just perma having bad luck. So definitely feel for him. I think it'll be a cool opportunity for Castle because he's someone that has really impressed me, even being on DSG and, kind of having no team all the time. We've seen a lot of players in that kind of situation where it'll be like, one decent looking player on a really sad team. And usually I feel like their performance will fall off because, they'll start, I don't even know if it's that player's fault most of the time, but if it just feels like everything you do is losing, you start just like losing trust in what you're doing, or like just trying weird things, end up being bad. But I think Castle has been really good despite being on a super bad situation. But it's also weird because didn't Dhokla like solo kill Castle a couple weeks ago? It was Rumble into Aurora. He had like a really nasty solo kill.
He got super pounded the game before though. That was the game where he was playing Sion into Jace and he was down
he
like
did get super pounded.
$1 million gold.
Yes.
But he did solo kill in the game after, yeah.
Yeah, that did happen. Yes, I mean, we'll see what happened. I'm not a fan of 6-man rosters. I'm sure I've complained about that all the time. But it's...
Castle does have the highest goal difference at 10 out of top laners, which is kind of insane when you're on a team that has an 18% win rate.
Yeah,
Like,
he also
he plays a lot of counter
plays
picks.
a lot of like Jason counter picks and things that top lane matchups are pretty heavily determined by matchups as far as like early gold stats. But he's also is good at them. Both
very good at
both
them.
things definitely can be true. I'm personally just assuming that Castle is playing and that the talk of 6-man roster and play for their spot is either a bit facetious or it's just going to end up that way anyway. So at least I'm kind of assuming that Castle is going to play on the weekend. But it also is like, okay, well, this was very quick and he hasn't had much time to scrim, and integrating into an inspired team, must be a process. And, Dhokla's spoken many times how like, he actually kind of likes the feedback and the way that the Lyon team is run. So we'll see how well Castle fits into this machine, because Inspired likes controlled games where, things go as he expects in the early stages, and then he can get to the team fights and, objectives and stuff that he can call.
Speaking about the Inspired thing, there was a quote from an interview by Eagle Eye, I believe is the name on Twitter. And the question was, what's something you care deeply about to Inspired? And he was saying, his answer is just being honest to people. Don't try to act like someone you are not. Obviously, don't be stupid, but I like when people are honest. I don't like when people are hiding their emotions, even if they disagree with me. But if they think it's right, I like to have those conversations. And that is something I can respect. And I will say that that mentality, I think, is more traditional amongst like European pros, is that they are often way more direct. And in Korea, I think it can be pretty different with like how they go about the discussions. And a lot of Korean pros are going to be like less kind of like direct about it, and at least in my experience and the experiences I've heard with others. So I wonder how their communication styles will gel, right? Because if Inspired wants people to be like really direct, like really upfront, and he is like pretty like aggressive sometimes in the way that he communicates, like how Castle will gel with that would be interesting, because that is something that is going to be pretty important. But I mean, there's like two sides of me, because I do think that Castle has only been on bad teams. He was on Immortals and then DSG. We were just talking about this last week where our stats guy was, there was some tweet, I think it was like LEC initially with like most wins in their first 100 games. And then so our stats guy did LCS most wins in 100 games. And then Blaze Olive tweeted, oh, who has the least wins 100? And he had the least. But then Castle had the least to 93 games or whatever it is he's at now. And so I was kind of joking that it was like our stats guy bullied Castle into changing teams to try to avoid getting that record. But, he's been on only really bad teams. But even from when he first got here on Immortals, other top laners were telling me they thought he was actually really good. And I do think it is pretty hard to be 100 games into your LCS career, only having played for basically the worst teams in the league, and to still stand out pretty consistently, I think is impressive. So I can feel like Castle really did deserve a shot on a big team and be happy for him, as a person and as a player to get that. But I can also, on the other hand, be pretty sad for Dhokla, where I feel like Dhokla is kind of getting the short end of the stick. Like you're saying, it feels like he's getting unlucky. It's like, what more do you have to do? You win with energy, you go, it's great there. Then you join 100 Thieves, it's really struggling. You get to Worlds, you're like solo killing some of these best players in the world. You're performing really well. And then you win and lock in, and then you have a couple bad weeks of laning and you're replaced. Like that sucks. And it also sucks from the point of view of feeling like, oh, is every LCS team just gonna like go grab an LCK-CL top laner and just kind of replace all of the native top laners and mid laners? Like that feels like a bummer too, because I also want the NA players to be getting a shot, on these teams, and to be feeling like they're getting an opportunity. So it's like I'm happy for Castle, but I'm sad for Dhokla, and I don't know. I guess it's kind of like competing feelings in that way.
Yeah, definitely bittersweet in that way. I don't know. It's what rolls next. It was like first it was the mid laners, and now it's the top laners. It's like 80 carries. I don't know. Berserker's a resident now, so yeah.
I mean, especially with just having 8 teams too, because there's obviously less spots to go around. But speaking of those spots, people are already talking about all pro votes. I guess the thing that led it off though is MVP, because Jose Deodo is making such a strong case for himself, and in the role of jungle, which is dominated by Inspired, Jose has really been a standout and doing so much work for TL, and such a huge contributor to them being undefeated, tied at the top of the standings. And so I think a lot of people for MVP specific vote would have Inspired and Jose in there. I guess we can even like go role by role. Just who do you guys think are the best couple performing people of each role? And like, would Castle be one of your top laners, since we were just talking about him? It's kind of hard with Morgan and Thanatos, but Morgan has had a lot of bad like team plays later.
Yeah, I think you can't justify Castle being the best top laner, because we haven't actually seen him do well in team fights. Like some of these games where he's gotten massively ahead, he has not performed there. You can say, oh, that's his team's fault, but you still have to do it before I give you the credit for it. And I feel like Morgan, likewise, you're saying, is kind of making those mistakes. For me, like off the top of my head, I feel like Thanatos is the clear best top laner right now. I think he's the most well-rounded. He has a great laning phase. He seems to perform well in team fights. I think he has the least obvious points you can kind of criticize. If I'm going like lane by lane, I feel like it's Thanatos for sure. Jungle is really hard between Jose and Inspired, because I think they're succeeding in very different ways, but I think those are for sure my top 2. Mid, I also...
No Blaber?
If I'm just doing...
I feel like Blaber's still been pretty good.
He has been. Blaber's been good. If we're talking top 3, then Blaber would be my top 3 for sure, but... I wouldn't have Blaber in like MVP conversation, but I would have Jose and Inspired. I feel like those are kind of like head and shoulders above right now for me. Mid lane, I think, is a little more tricky as well, because I feel like some of the usual suspects have had some more like obvious holes in their game. Like Quid, I don't think has had the greatest season. I feel like APA has some really good games, but has some like really kind of like big ints and like obvious mistakes that he's making sometimes. And those are the 2 undefeated teams. I think Saint has been pretty good. I think Quad has been pretty good. Mid lane's pretty hard.
I feel like, to me, Saint has kind of stood out in a tier of his own, because he's just had some insane games, and the season started out slow, at least Lock-in did, but I think this year, and even at the end of Lock-in, he's just been good. I think he doesn't have as many of those moments where he just throws the game entirely, because I will say before, even when he had bad games, a lot of the time he looked like somebody that was just had zero trust for his team and was just trying to overplay situations so unnecessarily. But it seems like they've worked out a lot of stuff, and he's more confident just doing his role and letting his team do their thing. So Yeah, I think Saint's been the most impressive because, like you were saying, I think Quid and APA have both they're okay, but I think all of the other mid laners honestly have just had some bad games, a lot more than Saint has.
I feel like I have Quad above APA and Quid right now, and Saint number 1 probably for mid lane, and then I guess for AD it would be like Berserker, and I think Berserker is a clear number 1. I feel like Jan had a lot of bad games, but Jan has had some really good games lately too. Maybe like Jan and Masu would be my others in top 3. I feel like support clear number 1 to me is Vulcan right now, and then Isles, I think, has been playing really well, and I would throw Hui in there. I think
Core JJ?
I've been honestly less impressed with Core JJ, I think, this season. I feel like their laning phase, like Giannis had some bad games. I think Core obviously always gets a lot of credit for how they play the map, but I feel like TL has actually struggled more on playing the map and been more dependent upon their laning phases, and I feel like their laning phase has been a lot less consistent this split overall. The last couple weeks, I think they've been good, but yeah, no, I've been probably more impressed with those others. I guess that would be me across the board.
Yeah, I guess because you didn't say for a top lane who's behind Thanatos maybe, because I think the other ones are a little hard. I guess Morgan and
I would say
Castle in there then.
I would say Thanatos, Morgan, and then probably Castle, because I feel like Impact has been not great. I mean, Gakkos maybe, honestly. Gakkos maybe gets a little bit of consideration too. Him on carries, I think, has been really good. I think it's pretty wide open after that. I would have to think a lot about it because I think it's definitely not Impact. Like, you can kind of like start eliminating people. Like, I don't think it's, Impact or Fudge. I don't think it's Photon. I don't think it's Dhokla. But then I feel like and probably not Photon. Photon hasn't been as impressive. I feel like between Thanatos, Morgan, Castle, and then maybe an outside chance for like Echoes or something.
Well, it's May 6th right now, and we have until May 20th for the voting to open. So we have some time, but it is always
two more weeks.
Fun to start looking at. Yeah.
Who'd your top 3 MVPs be? Because we touched on Jose Inspired. For me, it's Jose Inspired and Vulcan would be my leading MVP.
Wow, Vulcan's
candidates.
up there.
I feel like Vulcan's
not
really
Thanatos for Cloud9.
I feel like I'm more on Vulcan, but it would be between those two. That would be 4. If I could say 4, I would say between those, and it would kind of like down these, because we're gonna have all the top teams playing each other these last couple of weeks, and that's gonna decide a lot for MVP, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like Vulcan has been really, really consistent. Thanatos has been great as well, but I feel like Vulcan has been a big part of Cloud9's success.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely don't disagree with that. But I don't know, if I was just coming up with a list of my own, I almost feel like I would just go all Lion. Like, Inspired, Saint, Berserker, to me, might be MVP candidates, because I don't even necessarily think Lion's the best team by a huge margin or anything like that. I think the top 3 are all pretty competitive right now, but to me...
Jose at all?
I don't know. I think he's good, but I don't know who I would put him over, because I feel like all 3 of those people on Lion, just when you think of that player themselves, like, they've just had insane carry performances, every one of those people. And so to me, that's kind of what the MVP is about. It's the people that would carry a game where probably no one else in this situation would be able to. I think Jose's been good as well.
Jose's had some hard carry games for TL for sure too.
Yeah, he has. I think, I don't know, TL just, as a team, that their games are so weird. It's like they win really hard, but then sometimes there are games where they're not like really ahead. They just look lost in a way. Like a little confused on what's going on. So I think for that reason, I maybe don't rate them as high as some other people. But I mean, obviously they're really good. I could totally see an argument for Jose being in the top 3 or Vulcan. Just to me, the Lion members have each just had like really, really monster seasons. That's
why this weekend is going to be so fun, because we have TL versus Lion. Like that game is going to go crazy hard, because it's the lock-in champions versus a lot of the pros now too, because it's not just fans but also pros are kind of downplaying Cloud9's undefeated record. So most people are saying, oh, TL/Lion are the strongest teams in the entire league. So it's kind of like on Sunday we get battle of the giants.
It could determine who gets MVP, to be honest. When
Yeah.
you have a head-to-head
If you
like
beat
that
'em.
and it's close. Yeah, because if especially if you stomp them,
Yeah.
right? Like if people are considering these two people and one stomps the other
And
a
it's
week or two
close to the
before.
end.
Exactly. It's almost the end of the season. But so I'm curious what your definition is for MVP then, because I know some people talk about I think of MVP as best players in the league, like best player in the league, period, for that split. Some people I know are more on the side of this is the most valuable to your team, not necessarily like the best player, but the person who is most important for a team's success. So like which side are you on?
I'm definitely more on the first thing. I think of it as far as like if the season was over right now and you're going into next season and some like Mr. Beast comes in and he's just
So you say the
blank check to everybody. Who is he trying to sign?
So the three best players in the league are all online.
I think so.
To me, see, that's crazy because then I feel like if that is true, shouldn't they be so much better than every other team? Unless you truly think, Isles and Dhokla are just horrible.
Well, he also said he doesn't think they play together as a team necessarily well.
But to me,
Correct me
team
if
play
I'm
is
wrong.
part of being a great player, right? It's one of the aspects, right? It's not just like how well can you click. It's how well do you work with your teammates? How good is your shot calling? How good is all this stuff? Like it all comes together, which is one of the reasons, like when we talk about All Pro, I mentioned Huhi because I feel like Huhi has been, we've gotten to see all these listen-ins and see like how good he has been playing. So no, I'm just kind of curious on your take.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not something that I've put like a whole ton of time into thinking. We just sort of like brought it up. We're talking here, but that is definitely who comes to mind first, just for that reason of I don't know. It's just I feel like when you watch Lion games, it's almost always like somebody is just hard carrying the game, and when they get a lead, they just run away with it. Not to say I think they could lose. I don't think that Lion necessarily has like the best team play ever. I think sometimes they might not have the best draft. Maybe something will just go wrong early game and they can't recover. But I don't know. I think just overall, player for player, like they've got some insanely solid people.
I think if Mr. Beast came to me, I would make a team with Inspired for sure.
Who are your three?
I'd make it with Inspired. Inspired, Jose, and Thanatos. I think I would like because again, if you're posing like this and someone's coming to you, are you first picking support to build your team around? No. I'm not picking.
But there's a difference between best player you think like holistically and best performing player this split, right?
And hard carry and who's gonna actually carry this team and who's the MVP. Yeah. I go Thanatos side. Yeah. I mean, I want a top laner smash. I think our discussion on top lane was pretty telling, right? Yeah. You're like, wow,
he's clearly the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because if you ask me who I'm starting a team with, it's Inspired over Jose 100%. I don't even consider it. Yeah. But I don't think that means that Inspired should just win MVP because MVP is best performing player this split, right? It is not career. It is not taking last year. It is not taking lock-in. It's not any of that stuff. And so that's why I think you can look in isolation and say, hey, yeah, I wouldn't choose Jose over Inspired if I'm starting a team with Mr. Beast. But Jose can be better than him this split and fully deserving this split.
I just like that lens that he talked about,
Yeah.
I'm already imagining Mr. Beast coming to me with a briefcase of money.
I mean, hey, we're talking value here.
Yeah.
How else? How else do you judge it, right?
Inspired has had some actual stinker games this year. So I think that's why there's a lot of momentum behind Jose. Also, maybe like voter fatigue too, where people are like, yeah, we know Inspired's really, really good, but like look what other people are performing well and giving them credit. Yeah. So I think all reasonable names that I've heard here, Vulcan, very reasonable, even though I'm kind of Thanatos sided. I think Vulcan's very reasonable as well. He's been exceptional. So I think a lot of these names are good.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because we're obviously gonna be talking about playoffs and everything coming up. But it's like these last couple of weeks, they have like almost all of the best games are loaded towards the end of the split. So it is really, really hype.
None of these teams have played each other.
Exactly.
They're all undefeated. That's so weird.
All the top 4 teams are playing on this Sunday. Yeah. All top 4. So it's gonna we have so many good matches coming up these last couple of weeks that realistically are going to do a lot in determining, who's first team All Pro, who's MVP, all this sort of stuff, and all the important playoff seeding, which is really, really hype.
That's why we're having the discussion now. So then later, or like after this weekend, people can be like, you idiot. You see Inspired just dominate Jose? What are you even talking about?
That's why I'm drafting him for my Mr. Beast team.
Yeah. What? Thanatos? Gakkos just smurfed on him. guys are dumb.
A reminder, top 6 obviously is going to be going from the regular season to playoffs, and then top 2 will qualify for MSI. So, playoffs is on the horizon, which also means playoff finals are on the horizon, and tickets are live for all viewers. Check the link in the description. It's going to be June 13th and 14th, the spring finals at ASU's Mullet Arena. 2 days of high-stakes competition as the top 3 teams battle for the spring title and a chance to represent the LCS at MSI. We hope to see you there, so grab your tickets if you haven't already. But
Bring your mullet
bring your mullet.
to the Mullet Arena.
Exactly. You'll get something if you have a mullet, for sure. Maybe a high five from Kobe. Get a high five.
Making some promises over here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There you go. You're not going to give someone a high five if they have a cool
Not
mullet?
if I'm being forced into it. High five's got to come naturally.
It's not you're not just naturally inclined to give someone with a cool mullet a high five at Mullet Arena.
Maybe less so. Like if someone tells me I got to do something, then I
You're
resist.
feeling peer pressured.
It's like when someone in league, has someone ever told you to do the right play and then you're just like,
I don't know if I want to do that anymore.
Yeah. I'm like, I was already thinking of doing that, but now I'm not going to do that. My mid laner's been yelling at me all game. He's telling me to do the correct play, and I'm just like, well, I'm going bottom. Screw this.
Yeah.
I
don't cave to peer pressure. I won't go for soul. I'll be split pushing top as Malphite.
There you go.
All right. Well, Kobe won't be giving you a high five, so don't
Maybe
expect
I will.
it.
Now he said maybe I won't.
He definitely won't.
You get a high five now.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to talk about this upcoming week of LCS and all the playoff implications.
Dude, this lobby is kind of comfy. It feels different.
If this is different, I like different. I'm staying right here.
Are you guys serious? We're about to get into game.
Emily, let us enjoy it!
You guys need to lock in. Maybe this'll help.
Oh no, not already.
Welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia. It's time to talk LCS. So we just touched on it, obviously. This upcoming week, these last 2 weeks are super, super important. It is going to be really exciting. We can talk. Do you want to talk ahead, or do you want to talk back to last week first?
I think we
have
should
a lot of cool
keep on doing it how we've been doing it.
So we're talking back. So DSG, Dig versus C9 was one of those series. A little bit surprising that Dig did take a game, but then you look, holistically, they've taken a game off all of our top 3 teams now. So, maybe it shouldn't be surprising, but it keeps feeling weird because, all their other games, they kind of just get blasted.
Dignitas, they deserve some credit. Cloud9, okay, maybe
Not a lot.
Yeah, but they deserve some. Enough that during the pros podcast, it was with Dhokla and Fudge and who was the third
Quad.
person? And Quad. They were kind of between Dig and DSG. They were all like, "Ooh, okay, DSG." Two of them were like, "DSG probably," but then they're like, "Wait a second, but DSG are changing top laners." Okay, never mind. Now Dig, and so they gave credit to Dignitas. They predicted Dignitas to win because
DSG lost their best player, and they're playing the second worst team in the league.
There you go.
Some credit.
They didn't keep them as still losing. But also, after the Cloud9 series, there was another interview, I believe, Dom, and this might have been the sheep one I was thinking of, where people were like, "Oh yeah, Dignitas, don't underestimate Dignitas."
Yep.
They have been taking these individual games, and those. They are showing that they can, they can do it. They can actually bring it home. So
They got one blue shell a week. They can take down a top team for one game.
they're going to make you think. See, make you think twice. So Dignitas, yeah, they are at the bottom of the standings. They still haven't been able to win a series, but at least they are. Taking individual games and stuff.
I mean, they basically have to win out, right? Because they're winless. They don't have a
Yeah.
single series win, so it's a tough position for them. They did the thing that's weird about Dignitas. All jokes aside, and kind of frustrating about Dignitas is that it's like they don't a lot of their wins actually look like good wins, right? And then they just completely fall apart, and it doesn't feel like they can build on that. And I'm not really sure, what the issue is. I mean, obviously their laning and stuff seems quite weak, so maybe they're just getting too far behind in some of these games. But even some of the games where they're in a decent spot, then they throw. So I don't really know because they do have these games that are just these one-off games. They look pretty consistent. They look in control. They win the game. They beat a top team, but they can't seem to really turn that into anything else, which is obviously pretty tough for them because they haven't really been able to find any like clear win condition or any way to build on it. And I mean it's been a bit tough for them, but I mean, it's like it's nice that you're getting a single game win against all the top teams. Like, hey, you're capable of it. But if it never amounts to a series win, it's like almost more depressing.
Yeah, I thought their win against C9 was kind of impressive because I don't know, watching that game, it looked super cursed. Like Photon's playing Jax up against Varus top, and I don't know, man. Being a top laner in today's League of Legends seems so unbelievably rough. It's like, hey, what do you want to lane against? Do you want to play against like Varus top? Do you want to play against Vayne top? They're not running TP. Don't worry, they're gonna have exhaust or something for you. So I don't know. The game seems so cursed. Photon was down so much in lane as well, but then somehow they just started winning fights.
That was the XU Jarvan game, right? I thought he actually played.
No, that was the XU Xin Zhao game.
Oh, okay.
He actually was deathless. It was good XU.
Yeah, he played a really good game.
It was a good XU game though. It was his Xin game, and Photon's lane phase was so painful. I remember casting it, and he was forced to stare at so many minions just dying in front of him. They're trying to make plays on the map as well. Palfox with his Talia, which he found success on even back with energy and in some of the peaks of his time in FBI and Ignar on the Nami Lucian. So they look good in that game, and it's against this like full dive comp too with the Galio, Nocturne, and Nico. I'm like, that is terrifying dive. They can flank you from everywhere. With like Nocturne turning out the lights and then getting these crazy engages. But in a lot of the scenarios, Dig were able to like avoid the big, combinations with the Galio coming down on top of them and be able to take over through objectives. It was the dragon stacking that really got them there.
Yeah.
And being able to grab that critical dragon fight was huge.
Yeah, the Dragon Soul. I remember thinking when I was watching that game that APA was kind of just playing the team fights wrong. And I don't know if you guys agree because they were playing this like double AD carry comp where they have Varus top. And then they were, to my recollection, having APA try to kind of like mark the flank of the Jax. But then because they have this double AD carry team with like a Nocturne and then what was their support in that game? I can't remember. Nico. So who is supposed to walk up and create space for the AD carries in there, right? Is it like supposed to be Nocturne walking forward, Nico walking forward? You can't do that, right? So to me, it felt like it put them in this spot where they needed to have someone else marking the Jax, whether that had to be the Varus or whatever. Like they needed to have something different as far as the setup in my mind, because when they were coming to these dragon fights, it just felt like C9 set up their battle line, Jax like threatens a flank or whatever, APA walks to try to kind of like mark him, and then it just 4 C9 members kind of like going like this back and forth. No one can create any space. No one could be the first one to go in. And it just felt like they didn't really know how to actually play out the fight. They like had drafted for these lanes, but then didn't know how to set up the fights and didn't know how to actually play it out. And they have these double AD carries that are never having anyone like soaking damage for them, which is a big reason why people talk about, oh, you have to play bruisers jungles because the game's so much about bot lane. Like every jungler I'm talking to, when I was talking to Blaber even about this, he was like, yeah, you have to play, Sunder Sky jungler because you have to get in there, create space for AD carry. And I felt like this game kind of exemplified why we see so much of that, where C9 kind of had this weird comp where it's like 4 kind of squishy champions, none of them can create space, and the AD carries were kind of just like standing there watching the dragons go down.
Yeah, and there was also that one fight that was like APA ended up getting caught really badly on Galio, where he was like, too far toward bot lane, and then he gets Talia ulted, and I think he probably could have got past it if he rocket belted, but he just gambled on the E and was like, a microsecond off getting to the other side of the wall, and it got like canceled, and he was pushed back into everybody, and it was just, kind of lost from there. So yeah, Dignitas did get a win, but I think C9 had an off game as well. They're like, it just didn't work out for them, but Dignitas still winless after the series because afterwards it just seemed like, when Dig loses, they really lose. Like they look extremely sad in a lot of those other games.
I feel like that's the most frustrating part because they do look good in their wins versus top teams. But like you're saying, you kind of wipe it all away when then they look really bad in a loss right after. And then, of course, you're losing the series also with that loss. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that. Like, that's why it does feel so bad, even though this team like does deserve the credit of being threatening in, certain situations. And they've shown they've been able to play out some well, but then they have some like total stinkers where they just like play their comp completely wrong. Their macro is atrocious, and you're just like, what is going on? Is this the same team? So yeah, I definitely agree there. It's looking tough, and our last 2 weeks are very like high pressure. Two different ways for these two teams. Cloud9 obviously going to the upper bracket. Dignitas going down to the bottom where they have a lot of pressure for can we get into playoffs. And right now it's looking like no, because they have 0 wins. They're at the literal bottom. And Cloud9 are at the little top. And so it's I think that it's really fun that our last couple of weeks are this way. We did have to like get through our vegetables previously, but now that we've done it, we get some super hype ones.
Yeah, it should be exciting. Dig as obviously DSG this week. We'll get to that later. But their last 2 matches are going to be against bottom 4 teams. So as far as I know, so it's possible for them to make it, but obviously disappointing loss for them. DSG played TL this series. Did not feel very close. I feel like Castle had some really good individual advantages, like his Jace game especially. He was up a couple thousand gold. But again, it just never felt like he could actually convert that into anything else. And everywhere else on the map just felt like TL was kind of always winning.
Yeah, it was another just insanely lane dominant performance from Castle top. He picked the Jace, and then Morgan went Gragas against it. And I think Castle was up, I don't know how much CS.
A lot.
Not as much as the Dhokla game, but, Gragas, he actually got buffed this recent patch, and I was kind of surprised to see him getting picked because, it's been a while. Gragas used to be like such a staple champion in pro play, especially jungle, but he's been gone for a while, and now he's shown up top a little bit.
And the W, though, doesn't even do anything until you're like level 14. Because it's the exact same at rank 1. And no one, like, that's when we were talking about on the dive last week. I was like, oh, will people put points in it? No one put points in it. It was just like the last max skill. So you're not actually getting any sort of a buff until level 14 and onward, which you can get to with Roa and top lane quest and whatever. But Comet is a little bit better, arguably, with like the travel distance damage that you can take from with your Q. But it felt like both the Gragas games we saw, they were kind of getting smacked in lane.
Dude, okay, I'll say in Gragas' defense, that champion is so hard to CS on early. I feel like no matter how good you are at Gragas, you're just gonna miss like half the CS in the first 3 waves. There's no way you're getting more than like 10 by the first candidate. I can't tell you why, but this champion is just so hard to farm with.
I feel like it's really hard to team fight on. My experience is always the opposite. Lane, I don't have much trouble.
Well, so it's
this champion. I'm just like, no matter how strong I am, I'm gonna blow it in the team fight.
Yeah, I've always thought of Gragas. He's kind of like the neutralizer top laner. I'm pretty sure everyone who plays the like fighters top, Jax, Fiora, Camille, whatever, they hate Gragas top because he's just so hard to get an advantage on. Actually punishing him is, I'm not going to say impossible, but pretty close.
And if you try to hit the tower, he can one-shot the wave and CC you under the tower at the same time. So you can just never hit plates.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you try to like harass him on your turret and he instant body slams you and then ults you back into the turret. Yeah. He has a lot of kill pressure on you, which you actually saw in this game as well. It was like, I don't remember exactly what the game time was, but basically just the first time Jose really had a good look on him, he just gets ulted in by Gragas, and it's like, to some degree, what can you do if you're Castle and that happens? Hopefully your team can be around and you can counter gank it and turn it, but Gragas can just kind of always do that. His ulti is such a long range ability, and if it hits, you just go flying unbelievably far. So yeah, it was not enough to win, but did make Castle look good in lane.
I feel like the comps for TL this time around were like pretty easy for them drafting too. They got two, I feel like some of their best style of drafts where the first one is one that in the previous week when they got a very similar one, Spawn was like, yeah, we didn't have to do much. We got 4 out of 5 of our best champs. And then I was looking at this one, I was like, they got 4 out of 5 of the same champs in this game. I'm like, he already said these are our best champs. They're getting them again. I know Ashe, Seraphine, Ornn. I'm assuming it's the Yone, and then the Sejuani is the jungles, but you could switch Sejuani with a lot of junglers can perform that role. So, those types of Ashe, Seraphine, and Ornn engage, lanes and having some sort of engaged mid laner as well. Like these things, multiple teams are using this as well. It's not obviously just TL that are on this. Cloud9 have used some similar comps as well. And then the second one that TL used was a Zyra Khan combo again. And I feel like
Jose was giga that game.
Yeah, Jose's Lee Sin obviously was the star, but I feel like Yannick or JJ might be our best Zyra Khans, specifically for those champions. You can definitely say, Berserker's better on, a lot of other stuff.
Hyper carries.
Like Aphelios or Yunara, Lulu's or something like that. Maybe when they buff the new Zeri, because I know they changed Zeri and then they already listed like the next patch is going to be more power buffs for her or something. So maybe something like that does come back. But yeah, I feel like Zyra Khan, Yannick or JJ have looked very dangerous on. But yeah, Jose Lee Sin strikes again. That was, what do you have, like 12, 15 kills or something?
Also, you see
in this game.
the safeguard changes that are coming through.
Yeah.
Like there's some mini damage nerfs, but they're making it so the safeguard cooldown is like going to be way lower on like wards and I think you're gonna be able to use it on minions getting too. I think I saw something.
Yeah.
Like for like at the lower cooldown as well, right? So it went from like 12 to 7 seconds or something. So there's gonna be like way more potential mobility for Lee Sin, dodging in and out of fights. And Jose's like in our league the only one playing it and looking super good on it already.
Yeah, it's crazy this champ keeps getting away with buffs. I'm not gonna lie. I've actually switched my ban in solo queue from Graves to Lee Sin just because I don't know. To me, I'm just like, how does he keep getting away with it? He's like the most picked jungler. He's like one of the highest win rates, especially in high elo. He's just really strong right now. And so next patch, he is getting the thing you're talking about, but he's getting a little bit of compensation nerfs for it. I think
a little bit of damage nerfs.
It's like slightly less damage on his E. And then also if you W yourself, because before it was halved, it's instead of being 6 seconds, it's still going to be 7 now. So it's like his clear will be slightly slower, but I'm wondering if we're going to see lane Lee Sin because
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that seems kind of strong to me. I want to see some support Lee Sin. You just keep ward jumping in their face. It's got a low cooldown.
Is it reduced cooldowns on minions too, or am I crazy? Did I read that? What was that?
It's just always 7-second cooldown no matter what you use it on.
Okay, so that's what I thought. Yeah,
and I think he also shields himself now, even if he's not using it on a champion. I'd have to double check that.
That's what I remember hearing too, because that made me think of lane Lee Sin as well. When I think about, you remember when top lane Lee Sin was actually really popular with Ravenous Hydra, and then
it was the Fudge era.
The trading pattern was actually so annoying because basically all he would do is he would like Emax and he would just W in on the minions and then like Hydra E whatever, and like one shot the wave, heal to full and just be fighting you.
Yeah, some would do like W Max as well. It's just like, wow, this is sick to lane against, bro.
So I mean, that could be really good for Jose. He's definitely a nasty Lee Sin.
Yeah.
Yeah, very well could be. Next game that we had was the Lyon versus Sentinels 2-0. And this one was almost turned into a banger by our Nexus defense that we've got our sponsored, not sponsored clip for you to watch again, because it was a pretty cool Nexus defense, with the shockwave comes through from Dark Wings and you're like, oh my god, Sentinels are literally gonna get Dragon Soul off this and Baron. Are they gonna be able to push us to another game, guys?
I mean, I thought so in the moment. Yeah. It didn't end up happening. And this is one of those ones, especially if they had lost, there'd be so many different things you could review, because Saint is on the Akali chasing the Nami to kill the Nami first. Isles was on the Bard and he was kind of just like camping by the fountain to wait to like ult and then Q slow the Orianna. And when we were watching it live, we were trying to like count and he probably missed like 7 autos on the Bard, because you could have just ulted him from while you're hitting the tower, right? Instead of actually standing right beside him. And so there was a lot of little things, and the Nexus lived with, I don't know what it was, 30%, 40% HP, but pretty low.
I'm looking at it right now. What was that, like 3-4 autos? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so when I was watching
maybe 2,
this live,
3.
Yeah, it probably depends from who.
Yeah, it depends a little bit from who, for
Of
sure.
course, yeah.
I mean, I will say they don't have the best turret killing champions on their team.
But watch Saint in this replay. He just runs past the tower and just chases the Nami.
He had to.
And then watch Isles as well. He was kind of just like by the Nexus. And I mean, this is one of these things that obviously I think in the moment they thought it was just a guaranteed game ender. And Sentinels did a really good job of defending it. You know, Huhi wastes some time. Darkwings hits a really good shockwave and they hold and you're like, oh my God, they're actually gonna come back.
Yeah. I mean, it was cinematic. It was super hype. And I kind of like that Lyon's pushing themselves more because even when they were really successful, their games were super slow. Like they had that play style of, you know, not exactly Genji, but when you think of like a really solid team that's just kind of like slow and boring, for lack of a better word, it kind of gave those vibes where it's like really low kill count. They don't really get too crazy with it. When they're winning, they just sort of like slowly choke out their opponents, which, you know, it's nothing against them. It's an effective way to win, but it's not that exciting sometimes. But I know Inspired talked about, you know, wanting to like have a little bit more chaotic games, like get a little bit more messy. And they did that for sure. That was, I wish we could have heard who made the call to end there, because that seemed insane to go for. Is like you were saying, Sentinels had Soul up. They just won a fight in front of Soul. Baron was also up. And then I think there was like a wave crashing into the tier 2 top, and the death timers weren't even that long. It was like, I don't know, 30, maybe 40 seconds on people. And usually my rule of thumb is like, if we can kill the inhibitor with 20 seconds left or something, you can usually go for it. But that one was sketchy. Also, I mean, you have to think about it, like, do your champions actually kill turrets really quickly? And like Gnar, he's okay at it, but, you know, building stuff like Wit's End, on-hit champions just aren't that good at killing turrets because the on-hits don't work on it. Akali's okay at killing turrets because she has AP, but she, I don't know, other mages do more. So I think so overall their champions weren't that great at it, and they went for it and missed it and then lost everything, basically.
Except for the game.
Not the game.
Still won.
Not the game. Yeah, it was cinematic. It was super hype. They went for it. I think it was probably objectively a bad call, obviously. But I didn't go back and look at all the details, but I heard also it was like Pantheon was hitting mid a little bit before ulting top. So it was like, I think maybe it was possible if everyone was fully committed to it from the very get-go, but
For sure.
I can't blame anyone on the team for not immediately seeing that end angle, because I mean, obviously it didn't work, but even beforehand, it's like, it didn't feel like one.
And basically every like failed Nexus push you've ever seen in history, there's always little things you can analyze that are obvious when you stop to think about it, you know the end result, and then you watch it back. But it's not like that live, right? You're thinking, Isles is thinking, oh, I'll just delay them and that'll buy time for my carries, get a couple more autos and that'll be worth it. And, you know, so there's always little things that you can kind of like overanalyze. But to your point, I mean, I do think it's kind of cool that they're at least, you know, putting their money where their mouth is a bit. You know, they said they wanted to be more chaotic. They wanted to try to make some of the right calls in these crazy moments. And that does take making more risks. Like, you have to take more risks, right? If you're talking about wanting to have these chaotic games and chaotic calls where you're going to be able to learn from that, hopefully, you know, in finals and internationals and whatever, it's like, yeah, some of those aren't going to work. That's kind of part of taking a chaotic route or angle or whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, they still did 2-0 them. They were able to clean it out. It felt like in both games, Sentinels had chances, and I feel like this is something that happens with a lot of Lion games where they're just so good in 5v5 that against a lot of the other teams in this league, they just are team fighting on another level where even if the other team has a good setup, even if the other team has an advantage, like Sentinels did after this where they had Soul, they just showed up to the Elder and they out-team fought them. They find a good angle and they're just able to kind of win. So I think it is something that is just consistently such a strength of theirs. And even in game one, I thought it was pretty close. I mean, Sentinels had an early advantage, you know, around 20 minutes, they're up 1K or so. And then it just comes, you have one team fight, Lion smacks you, and then all of a sudden they're in control and they're kind of dominating the game. And it's just something that's really, really difficult about fighting against them. I mean, to your point, you were talking about 3 players potentially being in your kind of like top 3 for MVP, all being on Lion. These guys can show up and team fight incredibly well. And if you are not, you know, this tall, if you're not high enough to ride, kind of so to speak, if you can't team fight well enough, you just don't really have a chance.
Well, I don't know how close you were watching Saint that first game on Rise, but like that was actually an unreal Rise game from my perspective because every fight, basically, I was going through and looking at. There was one fight. I don't remember exactly the game time, but mid game, Jarvan was like maybe level 12 or 13 or so, and he ulted into Lyon and just immediately died. And I was so surprised that he died that fast. I was like, well, I mean, he has Merc Shreds against like a bunch of AD champions. He does kind of need the tenacity, but then I look, it's like Berserker didn't even hit him. It was just Rise, just exploded him. And then there was also that gank he did top lane, where I think he Rise ulted in to gank Impact, and Dhokla basically couldn't connect at all, but he hit like every single Rise Q while running Impact down, which is super hard to do. If you miss one of those, he just gets out. So I thought it was just extremely impressive by Saint, and then toward the end of the game, once you get Actualizer and you're that ahead, you're just actually Thanos. So I thought that was a really great example of why I rate him so highly, because most players, they don't have that kind of game.
Yeah, don't have that carry potential. From the Sentinel side of this series, I actually really enjoy and like that they are becoming this we never give up team. We can come back, and like they have this epic Nexus defense and make you believe that like they're always positive mentality. We get these comms listen-ins. They're focused on always trying to find a way to come back in these games and make you believe that they can, even when they didn't actually actually end this game.
They just didn't win.
Yeah, they didn't end up winning this game.
Yeah.
I do like that. We're getting like distinct personalities attached to a lot of our teams. And that always feels super fun to me, especially because this is the team with a lot of veterans. So the personality kind of, you would think, checks out with them too and kind of matches up. They're all kind of like veterans. They can, shot call and stay calm and, that sort of thing. So I thought that was really cool from their side as well. Obviously, they would like some more actual wins, and I still feel quite confident in them heading towards playoffs, though. Of course,
this game too it was Darkwing setting a new record for just the most vegan Orianna build you could ever have. He went Rod of Ages into Rocket Belt into Zonia. It's just like you don't do damage for that build. And I don't even think you're that tanky either. I mean, you're kind of tanky relative, but I feel like usually you want maybe one of those. But when you start giving up that many potential higher damage items, your Shockwave's not threatening. You're not, even if you hit Sivir with Shockwave, she's not going to die to that. So
here's my
I did not love that.
Here's my questions / like theory. Since Phase Rush was removed, and Orianna really did rely on that for a lot of defense and a lot of like matchup outplaying people. Do you think that is going to cause? Because now people will just take like barrier comment, right? And you get a little bit more damage, but it's not going to nearly give you survivability like Phase Rush did, which wasn't like tankiness, but it was a lot of outplay potential, with the speed. Is that why he felt like really necessary? Because he's playing against Akali and Pantheon, right? Akali's going to put a lot of threat on you to assassinate. Pantheon can jump on your head as well. And Proto Belt has already gotten very popular, especially with
usually not also with Rod of Ages.
Yeah, not layered on with all of the possible defensives that you can get. But I think the removal of Phase Rush is something that will maybe start to chip away at the number one kind of status of Orianna, and maybe we actually start to see some some other angles opening up.
I feel like removal of Phase Rush probably hurts Rise more, to be honest, because Rise is shorter range and I feel like is kind of easier to
and he's playing against Akali in this game though.
I know, and just in general, like I'm just talking about like because you're asking about Phase Rush for Orianna. I feel like it's like did he go that because of Phase Rush removal? Maybe, or maybe he's just thinking, like you said, Akali Pantheon, he's gonna get one shot, so he feels like he needs it or something. But yeah, I mean it's always tough because especially if your team is in a losing position, I feel like sometimes players fall into that trap where you're losing, you're behind, you can get burst, suddenly build more defensive, but when you're already behind, you can never get tanky enough that it actually matters, and your only hope of coming back is one-shotting someone generally, right? So it's like often it's better to just build pure offense when you're behind and just try to get that one shot. And I feel like when you're ahead is often when you get the luxury of being able to build some of these more defensive items because you have so much more golds. You're already doing a ton of damage. But yeah, I mean, I think the phase rush removal is interesting. And especially like, you know, against specific champions, it's a really big deal, right? Like when I think of, I don't know, like Trundle or something like that, phase rush just completely negated that champion for someone like Ryze
Olaf
or
too.
whoever. Olaf is another good example.
Yeah, playing Olaf into phase rush is so miserable. It's like, I finally got on this guy. I'm throwing my axe, and it's like, and he's faster than me, and I can't slow him. This is chill. So I think it is a really good point that phase rush is gone. So he probably felt pressured to build more defensively. We saw Ryze switching to Ghost, which that's another option as well. I guess he's less concerned about not having TP because he's got his ultimate. So maybe Orianna with Ghost would feel too hard to play the map without TP or something. But not my problem to solve. That's up to the players to figure that one out. So yeah, no, I don't think the tank Orianna is the best method, but it was with Darkwing Stride, and they were kind of close, but didn't work out.
They had a shot to win both games, but Lion just team fought better. And at the end of the day, this means Sentinels is 1-4 in the LCS now, and they've won 5 games, but they have won only the one series. Who he had an interview with Sheep Esports, where he was asked about winning the EWC qualifiers because they won the EWC qualifiers, so they won that little mini online tournament. And who he was saying, we weren't as nervous playing these teams online as we are in stage games, and he says I can only put it on nerves, but I don't know exactly what's making us play differently on stage. For example, in the second game against Lyon, we were in a position we can't really lose if we execute our composition properly, but we failed to do so on stage, which is always kind of a tough thing. And it's interesting because this has been something we've heard quite a bit. We talked about this last week as well. In pros, Isles and various people were like, they were obviously the pros don't always pay that much attention to standings. Most of their opinions are based on scrims, right? And so a lot of the pros think of Sentinels as a really, really top team still, like think of them as a very good team. And like Isles was like shocked that they were 1-3 and now they're 1-4, he's like, whoa, they are a bottom team? Like what? And so a lot of pros are all still talking about this team as a high level team, but it is getting a little bit dicey for them now. If they drop another game to a bottom team unexpectedly, they could potentially miss playoffs. And I know most people are like, yeah, well, they're going to beat the bottom teams, but they did lose to DSG, right, at the beginning of the split. So it's obviously possible for them to lose to these bottom teams as well. And as good as they are in practice, they definitely need to start picking up some series wins.
All right, next we have Shopify versus FlyQuest. And honestly, it is so fun to watch the FlyQuest ascent. It's been a really fun journey, and we're only still, I feel like, pretty early in the year. Thinking back at how like everyone's talking about during the formation of this roster, we're not going to have high expectations really early on, and we know everybody's super young, but they have improved a lot, I feel like, and both individually as well as as a team. And it's always nice to hear from the players too, and their thoughts about it. Quad on Pros was talking about a lot of like Gatghost individual improvement, team macro improvement, how he seemed really confident about playing pretty much any team he was asked about. He was like, yeah, we could beat them. So this FlyQuest squad, I feel like is super fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, they looked I think they've been getting better pretty much every week we see them, because I know in the beginning they had a lot of issues with like Gryffinn being on the same page as his laners, because a lot of times it just seemed like they were desynced, and they would, he would either go for something and not have the support of his team, or like they just weren't really lining up that well. But things definitely went better this weekend. But all the games were actually kind of like funny and weird in that FlyQuest was winning early game really hard, and then in game 2 they actually managed to lose the whole game off of it. That one,
I thought they
don't
had
know.
a giga draft advantage in game 2.
Same.
I was like, oh my god, they hard won in draft. Wow, they're way ahead. This game is completely over.
Yeah, I think
It was so funny too because we got the coach cams and they
the
stood up and they did a handshake. After, it was like 5 minutes into the game after they got a
couple
kill.
Kills, they're like, yeah, we did it. We did it again.
It was so funny too because I was like, oh man, Shen is just waiting to use his ultimate when Vi uses his ultimate, and then they did it and they got the kills, and then we get the cams of the coaches like standing up. You're like,
Well drafted,
genius.
beautiful.
And then they ended up losing the series.
Yeah,
the game.
This one felt completely over from.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was even watching it, I'm like, yep. It's over. I think like the first 2 Vi ults were just hard countered by Shen.
Yeah.
Shen was up like 2 levels on Vi or something, and they were just getting everything.
Bot
and then
lane was winning. Everywhere was winning.
yeah, it felt like it started to go wrong when I think their bot lane got bored or something. They just sort of like walked up on Corki Nami with no respect and just like got blasted, and then lost a fight around Herald. I want to say, that Grubs Herald region.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. That
one
game
where
didn't seem losable.
Masu got chunked to like 30% before
Yeah.
the Herald fight even started, and they still
Yeah.
tried to take the Herald fight, and then it went tragic, right?
Yeah, it was super weird. It kind of felt like FlyQuest just sort of mentally checked out of that one. And you see this in solo queue a lot. It's like your team's winning too hard. The other team starts all chatting. They're like, GG, report this top laner. And you're like, yeah, this game's over. I'm going to like lean back in my chair a little bit. And then you start throwing. And you're like, oh, wait, shit, guys, we just lost. So it felt a little bit like that from FlyQuest. And then game 3, honestly, was kind of similar. It was like another just massive lead into a little bit of throwing in the mid game, but luckily not enough to lose. Because I think game 3, man, Seos was running it down real hard.
Yeah, game 2. I was just looking at it. At 15 minutes, FlyQuest is up 6-0, 3.6k gold lead.
Yeah,
like that looks so over. But B-Boy was crazy in this series. I feel like he was just the hope. Even in game 1 where they lost, he was like 6-0 on the Ezreal. Then game 2, he would have got a pentakill, except Fudge super griefed him by like Cassante ulting away the last kill. And he was just complete 1v9, got so fat on the Corki and won the game. And I feel like B-Boy was having a crazy series.
Yeah, the first game as well. Even though Shopify lost the first game, he was their hope. He was doing so much damage that game as well. But the funniest follow up for the FlyQuest one too. After the series, I saw Apollo and Thinkard outside, leaving the studio, and I started making fun of them about the handshake and stuff. And they immediately, as soon as I was like, "But that handshake," they were like, "Oh my god!" And we decided already, like we could never handshake again. Like we and all like they were cracking up about it. Obviously, it's really funny, afterwards because they win the series anyway.
Yeah.
But they were completely on board with it, and they were already like memeing themselves about it. The third game though, and the Seos thing too, like the Alistar just racking up the deaths. I mean, he's playing also against Smolder with execute and true damage and stuff also.
Most of those deaths were well before that.
He was flashing in when his whole team was leaving.
He's part of the he's part of the reason
he was the stacks.
that Smolder has the stacks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I feel like some of the scenarios too were also like teammates make plays. Like he's not the only one at fault, right? A lot of the other teammates making some pretty big errors too, and that can make an Alistar also even look worse. Yeah. On top of already being in some questionable positions, so definitely.
There were some questions.
There were definitely some questions for a lot of Shopify angles.
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting series overall. FlyQuest was definitely monster through game 2. They do win the series, but they did some cool drafts, and I feel like the discussion would be more focused on the drafts if they just closed out game 2, because game 1 they blind picked Anivia top. They just like threw it out there. And I thought that was kind of interesting to see them cooking, because Anivia top, people talk a lot about Varus and how obnoxious that is. Anivia has a tiny play rate in top lane, but I swear Anivia has been like 54% win rate top laner for like 4 years. This champion always has high win rate and almost no play rate. And then every so often you randomly play against some Anivia player who's like an Anivia one trick and they're playing Anivia top, and you just get blasted, and it's like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do against this champion? They just trade so heavily, and a lot of the really good Anivia players are really good at using their passive, just like using the egg too, like those non-stop trade with you and be walking in and just autoing you constantly. It's usually range versus melee, right? And even if you are able to like do something and actually proc the egg, you have no damage like to actually kill them. So they just revive and they have more, mana back and everything. So I thought that was really cool. The Gragas came out. That was the first time we saw that Gragas answer. We talked about the other Gragas matchup, but this game I believe was before that one. And it worked okay. It didn't work out like great, but I thought that was a kind of a cool cook. And the Shen jungle, we touched on it a little bit, but I do feel like Shen just like thematically, like the way that champion wants to play the game counters a lot of what Vi does. And it does feel like it's a really solid answer. He was playing Guardian Shen, like full supportive items. You pop all that procs Guardian, gives you more chance to arrive. Like there's such good peeling there. So I do feel like it is cool, even though it lost. I feel like there are some interesting, experiments going on with some of these picks. And I feel like there's something there, and it's something that is cool to see from FlyQuest, that they're not afraid of kind of like going beyond what the other teams are playing.
Yeah, and their players are really confident in doing it. Like Gryffinn loves like spamming these things. He's been spamming Shen jungle, Nasus jungle, type stuff for solo queue. So I definitely like the creativity. And ThinkArt really embraces that type of drafting and that type of team play too. So yeah, I think there's a lot of upside for this FlyQuest team, and maybe not so much for Shopify. I keep on feeling
their first game 3 of the year, though.
I keep on feeling unhappy. Yeah, and I had, when you guys said that, I had been so like depressed on Shopify. I was like, I took it as like it had been their first
won a game.
Yeah, the first time they won a game. I was like, that was totally believable. And then you're like, oh, remember
they 2-0 Dignitas.
They beat Dignitas, and it's like, that's also very believable.
Every other series, they 0-2. They went 0-2, 0-2, 0-2 was their lock-in. Then they 2-0 Dignitas. Then they went 0-2, 0-2, 0-2, and then they just went to a game 3.
And that's with B-Void dropping 15 kills on some of these games. The Corki game was literally a 15 kill, a nuke.
It's been I feel like for Shopify, Contracts and B-Void to me have had they've both had good games, but I don't know whether it's team play or just certain individual performances. I feel like Fudge and Seos have really been struggling a lot this year, and even just the team. I mean, they. A lot of games, they actually have good early games for how much they lose, right? Usually when you team loses that much, they don't actually have good early games. Yeah. And so I think it's just a combination of certain people underperforming and maybe just their goals as a team aren't that great mid and late game because stuff just goes terribly wrong. Usually it's not that hard to play from ahead, honestly. It's a lot easier to play from ahead in mine. But Shopify would tell you otherwise.
I think Zinni is not blameless as well. When I'm thinking through who is he actually better than and performing better than in this split? Palafox?
Even that's debatable.
Palafox probably is better at laning.
Yeah, I think Palafox.
So I mean, I don't think I would put him above Call Me. I definitely wouldn't put him above Darkwings or Quad or Quid or APA or Saint. Yeah. So it's the best I can do is say you're the 7th best mid laner in the league right now.
Deal.
And you might be 8th.
I'd put him 8th. I honestly would put him 8th.
So it's
really? Wow.
I think I would have him above Palafox, but I think it's 7th, 8th. So I don't think Zinni has been good either. I think Seos has had some bad performances. I think Fudge has been definitely way below the standard that he set for himself last year, and that kind of I expected from him. So the team is struggling. I think Contracts has had some really good games, even in losses. B-Boy has obviously had some really good games, even in losses, but it shouldn't take a 15 kill game that should have had a pentakill to be able to get it across the finish line.
Yep. They've definitely got to figure out some as far as their team play or just certain mistakes need to stop happening. I guess for Zinni, for me, he's doing better than he did last split. So I guess he's on an upward trajectory, but he did really bad last split. So it doesn't necessarily mean he's doing well.
Yeah.
Well, they're playing Sentinels coming this weekend. Mm-hmm. So if you're putting this team that we're talking about having early leads and then not winning games versus the Sentinels team that wins games that they're down thousands and thousands and thousands of gold already anyway versus good teams, it's oh, wow, is that your nightmare? Is that perfectly crafted to destroy you no matter how much of an early gold lead you get? Or it seems to me on paper pretty Sentinels favored. With the styles, I don't know.
No, I agree. I mean, It's weird because Sentinels is a 1-4 team, right? But I still think of them as better than all the other teams at the bottom. And maybe that is your scope, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how close you are if you still lose, right? But I feel like they show a lot more positive things. They have won more games, even though not in more series. They have won 5 games, and then SR has won 3, I think. The 1 game last week and then the 2 against Dig. I do have Sentinels favored for sure, but I feel like this is definitely it's possible for Shopify, and then all of a sudden if Shopify win this, you could have Sentinels close to, or maybe not even just making in playoffs. Like Saturday is really important because Saturday is our 4 teams at the bottom. Sunday is our 4 teams in the top. So the 4 teams in the bottom, every one of these series matters so much for making playoffs, because 2 of these teams are going to miss playoffs, and they are all kind of just on the cusp right now. There's 3 teams with 1 win, and Dig has 0. So if they beat DSG, then they're tied up with DSG and one of their teams. So anyone can absolutely make it. I do favor Sentinels for sure. I feel like their team play is better. And like I said, I think Huhi has been really, really good. I feel like I favor the mid lane for sure. I favor them in a lot of roles, but I wouldn't be shocked. Like if B-Boy can play as well as he did, if the other teammates step up a little bit, it's winnable.
Just a little bit. If they cannot feed just as much, it's possible. Yeah.
Please give me something, guys.
I just need one of you who does not feed.
Can I have 1 lane to play too?
Any prio. I just want one of the crabs, man. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I don't. It doesn't seem super one sided to me. I could totally believe Shopify to win, but they'd have to be better than they've been doing.
Yeah. For DSG themselves versus Dig. Now, again, this is the one.
They lost their guy.
They lost their guy. On pros, Quad was, of course, all the people on pros were focused on their lane, and Fudge would be like, just say whoever he thought had the better top laner is the better team. And then Quad was like, well, Call Me is better at laning, so they're better and they're going to win. And so basically all the pros would just be like, yeah, whoever is, stronger in my lane is going to be the one. But a lot of them did favor DSG until they remembered that DSG were losing Castle.
Yeah.
And then 2 of them swapped over to Dig. I don't think Quad actually even flip-flopped or changed or anything, but this one, of course, is feels like so much must win for both these teams, because everybody in the league is looking at DSG and Dig like, you 2 are like dead teams walking. You're until we make the cutoff for playoffs, you're out of playoffs. Like
it is must win for Dig.
You have to prove to me that you're getting in playoffs rather than the other ones getting out.
If Dig loses this, the most they can get would be 1 win, and 2 teams would already be at 2 wins that are down in the bottom 4. So they'd be out. So they have to win both games, I think, to have any chance. I don't know the tiebreaker stuff, but they have to win both their games. I think Dig could definitely win. I think they should be favored. If I'm DSG though, you touched on this earlier with Srtty, just let Srtty go wild. I feel like just almost don't even bother trying to incorporate him into everything. Just let him pick for lane, go for counter picks. Whatever he is most comfortable doing, I feel like is what he should do, because he's going to have had no time to practice. He has been a range top specialist. I feel like you just let him go wild and play towards his lane and just kind of hope that you can win in that way. Because
are you going to also go to the effort of splitting jungle, invade their top side, make sure the enemy jungle's not up there type stuff too? Or are you saying, you know what? We're playing flex queue. You queued by yourself.
Dude, I mean, if I'm DSG, I'm not playing for bot lane. Their bot lane has been having a bad time. I don't care who my top laner is. I know who my bot lane is, and I'm going top side.
That's crazy.
Dude,
you're queuing with the boys. You're like, yeah, I queue with you, which means I know how you play.
I like that.
Which means I'm going to the random in top lane.
And because I respect you guys, I know that our best chance of winning is me not going anywhere near you.
Going to top lane with this person we didn't queue with, who I don't know anything about.
I know you guys can't get the job done. I don't know about him.
He's a question mark, which is better than you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely joking, at least somewhat. But DSG's bot lane's been struggling. I think they've had some okay games, but I would say overall they're definitely looking like the weakest in the league right now. And I think FBI Ignar is even though they haven't been having the best results, they should still be pretty favored against such Lions.
Yeah.
And they've had some crazy games too, with like when they brought out their Senna and Alistar stuff for. So,
and Senna is actually super OP right now with the Deathfire touch build and stuff. I think is actually quite good.
She's a good static user.
Yep, really good static user.
Yeah, for this patch that we're playing on, you can still do the Deathfire and Black Cleaver also, and that will still tick and proc it. They are already like it's already in patch notes to change for later, but
yeah,
can abuse it now. Smolder and
Giga OP
Senna
with that.
and
There's a few of them. Those are two of my favorite AD carries to play. So I've
two of FBI's favorite as well.
Get in there, FBI. I think Dig will take this. I feel like they'll get this win, and then it'll make for an exciting final week because they'll both be on the cusp of maybe make it, maybe not. C9 versus Fly is what we're going to be kicking off Sunday with. Again, these are all our top 4 teams that are playing. C9 versus Fly, really exciting. And then we're going to have Lyon versus TL as our other match on Sunday. So Sunday should be bangers.
Sunday, super banger. I am so excited for Cloud9 Fly because it feels like it's, despite the standings, there is like hovering over Cloud9, so many doubters waiting to be like, you're undefeated. Record is so fake. Like people are just waiting. And it feels like there's so many people that whenever Cloud9 don't do well, that like really want to flame them for some reason. Meanwhile, for FlyQuest, it feels like there's so many people that want to be like, I told you so. Look at these young kids are so good. And blah, blah, blah. And like the trajectories for these two teams are kind of like on the edge, I feel like. And so it'll be really, really an exciting matchup, despite or in addition to both of them, being upper half teams. Mm-hmm. And so this one is, is anyone gonna favor FlyQuest here? Are you feeling a little risky? I still feel like that is the more risky one. Quad was very confident when he was on pros, but Raz was streaming, and Raz and our manager were talking about how Cryogen went in his chat and was either more respectful or way less confident as far as their matchup. So
they got smacked in lock-in by them.
They
so you have to be a little respectful.
It's a big game for Gryffinn because
Blaber fathered him.
They've been doing better, but like every time C9 has played Fly so far, Gryffinn has gotten genuinely run over by Blaber, in the most gruesome way possible. And Blaber's really good at doing that. I always thought he was super hard to play against. He's the jungler that will just like him plus his team will just make it so unplayable for you as a jungler if you don't have any kind of like lane leads or anything like that. Like they just play to choke out the jungler so hard. And so, it'll be a good test to see how far they've come because like you got to have that good coordination to not allow Blaber to like get away with these invades and all that stuff. So I still think C9 is going to be pretty favored here, but I think, FlyQuest bot lane's been doing really well. I could see them, winning lane against C9's bot lane. I don't know about top. Gakkos on carries just looked really good, but it's Thanatos, right? I feel like any matchup that's going to be hard. So I don't see any clear advantages for FlyQuest. I would expect probably 2-0 for C9, but
honestly, I haven't really been predicting any upsets, but I kind of am feeling the upset with this one a little bit. I might be trolling because I do think the obvious prediction is C9. They smacked them the last couple of times they played, but I've kind of been getting a little bit of a feeling like C9's been getting away with murder in some of their games. I don't think Sven has been playing as well individually. I don't think APA has been playing as well individually. So those are a couple places where, maybe FlyQuest could be favored as far as how the players are playing in team fights. I think that Quad and Masu could potentially outperform. I also think that FlyQuest is much better when Gakkos is playing carries, and it feels like to me, I'm assuming have decided to go more in that direction. If you're going to be blind picking a Nivea instead of a tank, I feel like you're probably happy to play carries. Obviously, they can throw games. They're less consistent. I think C9 is a much better macro team. That's kind of like the big deficit for FlyQuest in my mind. But I like FlyQuest drafts, and I do think that right now they have better performing carries in mid and bot. So that would be kind of like the edge that I give them. I don't know. I'm just kind of feeling like we haven't had a lot of upsets, and this is one that I've kind of.
I tried that a couple weeks ago. Didn't work out so well. Maybe it'll work out better for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have a feeling that this could be the upset.
See, it's tantalizing. It's enticing. Because of a lot of reasons that we're going over here, and people, it just feels like people are kind of waiting for something to kind of fall apart for C9. To Meteos' point, though, Gryffinn and FlyQuest really failed the first test. They really, really failed
Character building.
Yeah, they really, really
Training
failed
arc,
it.
you know?
And so the rematch is gonna be super fun. I also love that FlyQuest put a lot of social media content, like memeing on their failures and stuff.
The Jin
you
pick.
know, the most recent one is about Masu picking Jin.
Yeah,
and the whole team like memeing on him and like, why is his win rate is so bad, but he won't stop picking this champion. Definitely go check out FlyQuest's socials and YouTube to take a look at it, because I think they're always good sports up for making fun of themselves. I think, I'm pretty sure I remember way back when, after the first time Cloud9 stomped them, they also put out content about the ward Blab. Remember it was Blaber was talking about the ward that Gryffinn felt like he got like false information from. And then they're like, "Wow, we'll never make that warding mistake again," and led to like a whole snowball of Blaber, steamrolling over Gryffinn. So it's going to be really cool, and they're definitely going to pay a lot of attention to level 1 wards and jungle starts for this series, because
probably matchups too.
Jungle was crazy important for the last one. Definitely matchups too. We talked about Gakkos getting a lot better individually since the last time that they have played, so it'll be a fun one. Of course, everybody really still favoring Thanatos. So I think I also am, still going to favor Cloud9 and say this isn't going to be the C9 downfall right here. Maybe it'll occur in playoffs or something like that. But I kind of want to, FlyQuest, they're a lovable team.
They are. They're
exciting.
Fun. I'm not praying on the C9 downfall. Honestly, at this point, I feel like so many people are hating on C9 that I would be happy for them to win a championship. I don't know. I'm just feeling the upset this week. But
I mean, if we're just looking at historical data, C9 has fallen apart in playoffs, probably more often than not at this point. So I think it's kind of fair for people to expect it, and it's kind of on them to prove that they are not going to, because it was like a Jat segment on the broadcast. I hadn't thought about it, but it was like, I don't know, like 6 in a row or something, where they just dominated the regular season and then just had terrible playoffs.
2023 spring was last time they won. So they've had a lot of good regular seasons.
Yeah, and it's the weird part. It's one thing if you're just not a solid team, but it's very strange to do so well the whole season and then just have a terrible collapse when it matters the most repeatedly. So gonna definitely keep an eye on that. It would be cool to see him, move past that and do well, but hasn't happened for a while. So
prove the haters wrong.
The last match of the day, Lyon versus TL. If you guys are right, C9 will stay undefeated, and then that could set up for a potential undefeated match at the top in the final week between C9 and TL. But Lyon versus TL is going to be the last match on this Sunday this week. Going to be really, really exciting. Of course, Lyon has the one loss, which was the season opener to C9. They lost that one, and then they've won every series since. And I find myself predicting for Lyon, I feel like on this one as well. I'm kind of feeling more that their team fighting is a lot more solid. I feel like TL, to me, has more obvious holes in their game later on. Lyon seems like a pretty resilient team. Obviously, we don't know how top lane is going to be incorporated and how that's going to really change things, so that could really throw a wrench in the gear. But as impressive as Morgan is in the laning phase, I do feel like he has a lot more oopsies in team fights, and I feel like TL in general, I always saw as a really, really good macro team, and I feel like they've kind of lost a lot of that strength. To me, they seem much more of like this chaotic, like LPL style, skirmish-heavy team, and when it's really working, and they're going to stomp you hard. They're going to slam the lane, and then they're just going to be 24/7 in your jungle, killing you over and over and over. But I feel like Lyon is a hard team to do that to. And right now, I feel like I trust Lyon's team fighting more than I trust TL's, and I trust them to kind of like make the more intelligent, calm decisions, which could maybe kind of bite TL.
What about the top lane change, though? Didn't address that, because sometimes that can actually cause whichever top laner plays to play even worse. You know, if they say, oh yeah, Dhokla was having confidence problems with his lane phase, so we added another person behind him to make him play for his spot, and then, you know, either he still gets to play and then is, you know, extra pressure, or Castle comes in and he doesn't merge well with, you know, shot calling or whatever Lion systems are going on, that it is a risk to make roster changes within a season.
It is.
So it's interesting if you want to see that as like a positive or a negative.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard. I am operating on the assumption that Castle's going to come in, and Castle, I thought, was really good against Morgan in the 1v1 in their series last week, even with a really rough team. I am kind of looking at this as how I looked at it when Gakkos came in for FlyQuest in playoffs when Bwipo got subbed out after, you know, his punishment that he received, his little suspension and stuff that he got. And Inspired, basically his game plan was just to babysit top lane and make the game easy for the top laner. If you remember that one, I think there was even like an Ivern and Aurelia game, and they just played to that. That is how I expect Lyon will play to Castle, is they'll just be like, yep, I'll just incorporate him in that way. We'll make the game plan about him so he doesn't have to adapt to us as much, and kind of like simplify in that way. And so I'm kind of operating under that assumption, and that is, you know, part of like my mindset when I'm predicting, because I saw Inspired do that really, really well with Gakkos, who I see as kind of like a player with similar strengths in that he was like, you know, good mechanically, good laning phase is what he was known for. And so because I've seen Inspired already do that with the last FlyQuest roster last year and that work, I feel like he should be able to do that here too.
Yeah. Wow. This one's super hard to predict. I feel like you kind of convinced me when you were talking about the team's strengths though a little bit. I'll go with Lyon as far as like who I think would win. You know, if I was putting money on it, I'd probably do Lyon, but I think I kind of hope TL wins, because I think TL's fun to watch when they're winning. I like the way that they win games, just this like explosive, chaotic aggression. Because you know, it's just fun, right? It's like they're just actually doing crazy stuff, like just completely bizarre plays, and when it works out, it's super fun. But that being said, I don't think it's super likely. I think like when you're just looking at these players you're trying to snowball against, it's like who's losing hard on Lyon? Like is Saint losing hard? I mean, maybe if he gets ganked early, he's had some games in the past where he kind of just mentally checks out if the early game goes bad. I don't think Berserker is getting snowballed on bot lane. I don't think Inspired is either. So I mean, maybe you target top lane, maybe something just goes horribly wrong for Lyon, but they just seem really solid to me. And I don't know if TL is going to get that kind of advantages that they've sort of getting a lot of wins off of. I keep saying it, but when they're in a neutral game state, TL, they do some weird stuff as well, right? It's like things that work when you're super ahead don't really work when you're even. Like taking fights where you're outnumbered, or just like hard forcing things on enemy terms. It's good when you're winning, but not when you're losing. So we'll see. I think if it's a more slow game, it'll probably favor Lyon. But I mean, again, you know, Lyon's saying they're kind of like trying to buy into the chaos a little bit more as well. So I'll give them a slight lead, but I'm going to say 2-1 either way.
Yeah, it's funny because both these teams have been really good, but when they have lost, I feel like they have trolled. I feel like both of these teams have trolled individually. In games where TL have lost, it seems like, oh, dang, one person made a bad play or got caught, and then 10 seconds later, somebody else does, because there's no other person like dealing with that minion wave, or, you know, being able to, it's like kind of a domino effect. And then for Lyon, it's like some individual ego or something on one individual player just decided to go crazy, or like something goes weird in the early game, and then like Inspired gets super frustrated with like, what are you doing? Why is the game like this now? And so I feel this one could go either way for sure. It does seem like Lyon, like probably, if you're expecting this top lane thing to be a positive, then I would probably say Lyon. But now I have a feeling that this is gonna be the time for TL to lock in and shine, and, you know, like really show everything on stage, and not throw away, you know, some of these like silly deaths or something when they have generated a good gold lead. Because I completely agree with you. If it's a slow game, it'll favor Lyon. Inspired loves those type of games. He can control those. He does that for a living. But if it's a fast game, then which is equally as likely, I feel like with TL, I feel like they actually can continue the snowball and make Lyon uncomfortable, and they definitely can get the win. So you're gonna take the FlyQuest one, make it interesting. I'm gonna take the TL one, make it interesting.
The big upset of the undefeated team winning.
Really big. It is funny to say it like that, but I do feel like that is more of the upset, that more people would pick Lyon.
It's crazy to think about that though, that it feels that way for the team that has already lost a series and just made a roster change.
Yeah.
But
they're defending, they were locking champions
no,
also.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying it's weird when you think about it, right? TL to me feels like they're the team that should be the best team in the league, but I just don't think they are yet.
There's so many moments you go, why did you do that?
Exactly. And it feels like we kind of were making a joke about this where it's like, we had, I don't know if you saw this graphic we had where it was like, you flick one slider and the other turns off, right? And it's like, oh, okay, Jan's having a good week. And then Quid's turns off. You're like, oh, let me just turn that back on. And then Morgan's having a bad week. And then, oh, let me get that back. And then they're both having a bad week, And it's like, that feels like TL to me. Quid has been, I think, the biggest expectation versus reality disappointment, because I think Quid has been the best mid laner in the league for a while. When we saw him on 100 Thieves, last internationally, he looked really good individually. He was having some monster performances, even in losses. And so I expected him to kind of like gel more quickly with TL and to look really, really good. And I feel like when TL shows up, and Jan and Core are playing at their peak, and Morgan's playing at his peak, and Quid's playing at his peak, and like this team is all lanes are doing as well as we have seen them do in individual games. I feel like this team is the best team in the league for sure, because I do think they have the ability to like dominate all lanes, but they seem to make a lot of silly mistakes, and they never seem to be able to all have those amazing games at the same time. And I think that's more what it requires when you're playing against C9 and Lyon, those like really good teams. They can afford to have, okay, Jan has a bad game, but Quid is great, or Morgan has a bad game, but Jan is amazing. But when you're playing against Lyon or C9, I think you can't afford that as much. Those mistakes, I think, are going to be punished more heavily, and that's kind of like my worry for them. It's going to be exciting, though.
Sounds about right. Yeah. I mean, I think the undefeated thing's a little bit disingenuous just because it's strength of schedule, right? It's the top teams just haven't played each other, except like Lyon played C9 week 1 and lost. And so aside from that one match, none of the top teams have dropped a game to anybody else. So yeah, I mean, we're going to see them against each other, and that's going to influence the All Pros so much. Just as, timing is so good for them. You like Jose and Inspired's really close, then one of them slams the other guy, and it's just like no one's voting for the guy that just got slammed.
No,
not for maybe for All Pro, but not for MVP. Like you can still get on second or third team or whatever, but I mean, if Jose comes in here and just like turbo smurfs on Inspired every game, that might have just won you MVP, and likewise the other way around. So definitely an important series. Both days I think are actually super hyped because we have all our bottom 4 teams playing for playoff lives. All our top teams are playing against each other, which is A, just banger series, and B, playing for first place and locking in those top spots in the playoffs is going to be huge. So I'm really, really excited for this weekend. It's going to be the best one in a long time, I think, for LCS. That is going to wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. Also, leave a comment, and maybe we'll get to those sometime in the coming weeks here. LCS returns this Saturday, May 9th at 1 p.m. Pacific as Shopify Rebellion takes on Sentinels. We'll see you there.